Adding biometric features to your app can really enhance both from a user experience and an overall security standpoint. And it only takes 6 simple steps. Let's get into it. First step is we need to utilize the project info of XCode via the navigator sidebar to the left of your screen. Then we need to import the local authentication foundation provided by Apple. Then we create a function to call the features of the foundation to check if the user's device has biometric features available and if they allow us to access it. Then we create an @state variable to track if the user has unlocked or locked the device. Then we call the method somewhere within the app body. Since this app is a simple one, we'll just be using the onAppear modifier so that it launches as soon as we launch the app. Then we need to show it in the UI. Let's begin with step 1. So what we want to do is open that hamburger menu just at the top left of your screen. We'll then want to click on the project itself, i.e. the very top of it, of the file, and we will then want to make sure that the target of the SwiftUI is selected. Then we go to Info, then anywhere within Custom iOS Target Properties we can press the Add button, the plus button. I personally prefer it to do it at the bottom. Then we need to type in privacy, then hyphen, Face ID uses description. We then leave the type as a string, and then we type whatever we want the value to be to show the user when requesting the Face ID. So for example, this app requires biometrics to authenticate your login. Then we can go back to our content view and we can import the local authentication foundation to kick it all off. So just above our SwiftUI, let's type in import local authentication. And with that simple line of code, that's step 2. Now, step 3, we need to create a function that calls the features of the foundation to check if the user has a device that we can actually use to call biometrics. So what we'll do is we'll type in func for function, authentication for the name of the function, brackets for the initializer for the function, and then squiggly brackets for the protocol, i.e. what we're going to be doing within the function. So first we want to declare that we will be asking whether the device has biometrics available or not. We will be doing this through LA_context method, which is provided through us via the local authentication that we just imported. So let context equals the method of LA_context. Then we want to declare an optional error that may occur if the biometrics or the device is not available, or if the user simply denies us access. So var error, and we will use a colon to signify the type, i.e. this will be the type of NS error, which relates to Objective-C or C language, but don't worry about that, just get used to the syntax. C is basically what Swift is built off of. Then, once we've done that and we've identified the optional error and also the context, and what we're going to want to do is type in if context, then we want to see if we can evaluate the policy. Then the policy will be the device owner authentication with biometrics. Then our error will be the var error that we did, including the AND operator as well. Then, since this is an if statement, we need to add squiggly brackets to actually include something within the if statement. Within the if statement, we want to show the reason as to why we are accessing or requesting the biometrics to the user. This is a thing that actually appears when it pops up. So we will need to create a reason, and we'll just do a string for that. So we'll create a let reason, a constant reason, and then we'll type in something like, we need access to your biometrics to access data in your account. Then we want to evaluate the policy of the context and provide a said reason. We will then want to pass in a success or error depending on the user's actions, or if the device does not have access to biometrics, whether that be because the user hasn't set it up, or because it could be perhaps an older Apple device. So what we'll do is we'll do context, calling the context from earlier, and this time we'll evaluate the policy rather than can evaluate, because if we've gotten this far, we've already proved that we can evaluate. So we'll do evaluate policy, then the method of device owner authentication with biometrics, then localized reason will be the reason, and we'll want to then pass in a success or error, which means that if successful, the user will have the device unlocked, and if not successful, then the user will not have the device unlocked and will not have the data available. So what we'll do now is we will now pass in the two parameters of success and error. Then we need another if statement to see if successful. So we'll do if successful, and then for now we will just print success, a simple print. Then we need to close off the if else statement with print, and I'm just going to put something like denied. And then if it is not possible at all to request biometrics, we will simply print not possible. Okay, nice. And that's step 3 of the function or method to call features of the foundation done. Now we just need to create an @state to track whether the device, or the data rather, is unlocked. And that's just one simple line of code, @state private var is unlocked. And we will want to set that to false. Now we will create another if logic statement, but this time we'll be using the @state variable that we just called. So we do if is unlocked, i.e. if it's unlocked equals true, then we will display the text of you have successfully used biometrics to access your data. Then we also need to cover whether the if unlocked is false, and then we will then prompt the user to use the biometrics to unlock your account and access the data. As you can see in the canvas, we actually get the text for is unlocked equal false, because obviously our @state variable is initially set to false. Then, to make sure that our app actually works, we need to go back to the authentication method, and within our if context can evaluate if statement logic, within that nested if statement, we need to pass in if it is successful, then unlocked is true, else is unlocked equals false. Now we need to, within the UI, do a simple onAppear modifier, essentially meaning that when the app appears or when the app loads or runs, we are able to perform the authentication method. Okay, and with that, that's all the 6 steps that we need to do in order to make biometrics work. However, now the issue is actually proving that the code works. the canvas to the right of your screen cannot actually run biometrics. That's the issue that we currently have. So we will need to actually use the simulator, or if you have your physical device already set up, you can use that instead. In this video example, I will be running it on the simulator. To make sure that your XCode simulator runs, whether on your Mac or on your physical device, you will need to press Command R on your keyboard. This will then run the simulator on the device you have chosen. So, if we press Command R, we should see that the device, whether the simulator or physical device, runs, and you can see the build was successful. So I'll just bring it up now. Then you will see that the app loads. However, we are not getting the authentication method appearing. This is because the simulator within XCode does not actually automatically run biometrics. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to click on the simulator to Features, then Face ID, then Enabled. This then enables Face ID on your simulator app. We will actually need to rerun the simulator, so press Command R again, click Replace, build succeeded, then our simulator runs, and then we get the Face ID prompt. On a simulator, we need to go to make sure that the face matches. We need to press Option Command M. So we'll just click on the simulator here, press Option Command M, and as you can see now, we have successfully used biometric to access our data. This shouldn't be a problem on your physical device if you've already set up biometrics, but since we are using the simulator, we need to set it up for the first time. Okay, nice. And that is biometrics on Swift. We simply did 6 simple steps. We utilized the info within the project to create a prompt. We then imported local authentication. We then created a function to call features of the foundation and check if biometric features are available. We then created an @state to track whether the device or the account is locked or unlocked. We then called the method in our simple onAppearPerform modifier, and then we showed or changed the UI based on the biometric authenticator behavior. Nice. If you followed along, well done. You've now got a simple template for biometrics for any Apple devices. If you enjoyed the video, please comment what you enjoyed or what you struggled with, and please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.